this second video, we're going to figure out how to set up Laravel Mix. Laravel Mix is a pretty awesome little add-on to Laravel. It's included with Laravel 5. I believe it's 5.3 and up. We're working with Laravel 5.5. So basically, I'll just read here. Laravel Mix provides a fluent API for defining Webpack build steps for your Laravel application using several common CSS and JavaScript preprocessors. Through simple method chaining, you can fluently define your asset pipeline. For example, and then I show you this cool little example of mixing JavaScript files into, your basically mixing a bunch of files into one file. So we're going to use this because with this small little application we're going to build, we're going to be using SASS instead of just plain CSS because that's how we develop with it at the studio, and we're going to be using jQuery. So I think this might be a good time to kind of go over why we would be using jQuery versus Vue.js. And why not Angular and why not JavaScript? Why not something else? The simple answer is we love Vue.js. So Vue.js at the studio, it's our primary JavaScript framework that we use. We like it over React. We like it over Angular. Your choice of a JavaScript framework is 100% preference. They're all great. We just prefer Vue. I find it to be easier to just jump right in and learn than React. So that said, anytime that you want search engine friendliness, it's better just to go fully Laravel. I haven't gone the route of mixing Laravel and Vue for certain areas of applications that we've built yet because for the most part I still really like working with jQuery. I know that that's not super cool anymore, but we're not like an agency that tries to do things just because they're in and because they're cool. We really try to pick the best technology stack for the job at hand. And sometimes a nice, simple jQuery front end that has 2 or 3 files that do everything is easier than trying to interact with Vue for certain pieces and parts. So that said, we have done 5 or 6 software applications this year that have used Vue.js. So, if we don't need search engine friendliness, we made like an email client. We made a social media posting platform. We've made some stuff that used Vue.js, and it was absolutely awesome. But for the things that need search engine friendliness, we'd like to go Laravel and jQuery. So that's what I'm going to demonstrate here. We're going to take a look at installing Laravel Mix so that we can compile all of our JavaScript down to one file and so that it stays nice and organized. And then we're going to look at how to install it to do our SASS. So it's super simple. It says here, all that you have to do is make sure you have Node installed. If you don't have Node installed, super easy. Just type Node.js into your browser, head over there and hit 8.4.0, which is the current version, and download that. You can go with 6.11. It doesn't matter. You can pick either one of these. I like to go with the most current one. If you really are concerned about stability, pick 6.11.3 or whatever's out and recommended for most users at the time. That said, that's easy. I'm not going to go through how to install that. You guys can figure that out. Now, once you get it installed, Laravel ships, like I said, with Laravel Mix now. So all we have to do is go into Atom. We're going to open up our project. There's another package that I use called Terminal. See, it is called Platformio IDE Terminal. So just go into your Atom preferences, install, and type in Platformio, and then install the Platformio IDE terminal. What that does is anytime you have a project saved and you hit Command-Shift-T, it's going to pull up a terminal window that has that's got your, I'm going to make that larger so you can see it. It's going to pull up a terminal window right from whatever project root folder you're in now. So it's cool because you don't have to go cd, drop by all the way down to wherever it is that your file's at. It's just going to open up right in the base project folder. So what we're going to do is we're going to follow the instructions here. And like I said, we're going to try and do this as we would in the studio, and that means it's not going to be perfect. So when you're developing in a real environment, you're going to run across problems where you're going to have to use Stack Overflow, or you're going to have to ask people on the internet, or you're going to have to try and read books or whatever it is to figure it out. So these tutorials, I'm not going to worry about being super polished. We're going to go through this, and if we have to look something up while we're going, we're going to look it up, because I think it's very important for a software developer to have good, problem solving skills and asset finding skills. So really finding solutions to your problems is like a big portion of doing software development. So if we run into anything, we're just going to go through it on the tutorial and not try to edit that out. So that said, let's install this. So it says to install it, we just hit npm install. That's it. So let's go in here and hit npm install. So this is going to fetch everything, install everything for us. You'll notice that as soon as you hit that, it's going to add a webpack.mix file. We're going to wait for this to finish, but once it's finished, then we're going to get into this webpack mix file. Okay, so that took a second, so I'm cutting in now after that finished. So now that that's finished, you can see we have this new webpack.mix.js file. Now, the cool thing about this file is it's going to compile all of our stuff down to a couple of files, which is awesome. So I'm going to show you how we set up our assets folders at the studio. And this is also kind of a matter of preference, but once you understand how we do it, then you can set this up however you want. In your resources folder in the sidebar, there's going to be an assets folder. And in that, there's going to be JS files and there's going to be SASS files. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete both of those folders because they have stuff in them. And then I'm going to add them back. So we're going to make a new folder and say JS, and we're going to make a new folder and say SASS. So what we like to do, I'm going to open up another project real quick. So let's go here. I'm going to open up a project that we are actually working on right now and show you how we have this laid out. So what we like to do is we like to have our JS files in an app and a frameworks folder. So frameworks are where we put all of our Bootstrap. We use a plugin called Headroom, validation plugins. This is for uploading the plupload. So that's where we put all of our frameworks. And then we have a folder for our app. And sometimes if we have an admin section, we'll make an admin folder. And then the front end would be all the front end JavaScript files. So we like to arrange this way. And we like to put our SASS similar. So in our SASS folders, we usually have a frameworks folder where we'll have our Bootstrap and our Sweet Alert, Font Awesome, date tables, whatever CSS or SASS frameworks, even regular CSS frameworks, we add the SCSS extension and put them in this folder. That way, we're just going ahead and compiling everything, and it's easy to find. So we put an imports folder in every single folder within SASS. So that way, and I'll show you why in a second, but basically, you put an imports file, and then you import everything else that you put in this folder into it. And that way, in your main app.scss, you can say import your frameworks imports file, import your structure imports file, and your layouts imports file. So that's how we pretty much lay out every single file or every single project that we do. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to switch back to the other project, and we're going to set some of this up. For a minute, we're going to close this, and we're just going to look at the assets folder. So we have JS and we have SASS. In the JS folder, I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder called frameworks. And I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder called front end. And then in the SASS folder, I'm going to go ahead and make a folder called, let's see, I'm going to look at my other folder structure real quick. We're going to call it frameworks. Then we're going to make one called layouts. And then we're going to make one called structure. Once you have all three of these files, you're just going to create a file in each one of them called imports.scss. And inside this is where you're going to import everything. You don't have to really do anything with it yet. We can add to it as we go. But we're just going to get it all set up so that we're not having to do this later. So we're going to go ahead and add an imports file for imports.scss. And then let's make a file in structure called imports.scss. In our SASS folder, let's make a new file called app.scss. And what we're going to do here is we're just going to import all of those other files. So we're going to just make a comment and say import all the files. So we're going to say import frameworks, imports, import layouts, imports. And before that, before the layouts, we're actually going to do the other one. So we'll go import structure imports. Okay, so we have frameworks, structure, and layouts. Save that, and that's going to be the file that we target with our Laravel mix. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up our Webpack mix file. I'm just opening this other one on my other monitor to kind of get the stuff that we do typically out of here. So this is the file that we use at the studio for Laravel mix. I'm just going to copy this and we're going to modify it a bit. So in our project, let's open the Webpack mix file. Oops, that's in that project. Okay, so this is our base Laravel mix file. This file actually works great. There's nothing wrong with this file if this is how you want to set it up. We set it up slightly different. I'm going to delete everything in the scripts mix to just one so that it's not confusing. Let's go over this SASS line here. So we're going to say grab resources, assets, SASS, app.scss, and we're going to basically compile everything in that file down to public CSS. So there's a public folder in Laravel that's going to have your CSS images and JS. You can serve directly out of this file, meaning I could make a layout and say, script source js/app.js. That's exactly what we're going to do. But you could also put all of your frameworks and all of your Bootstrap and everything else in there. I feel that it's much better to just compile it all so that it's all just one file and you don't have a bunch of front-facing, you don't have 300 lines of scripts in the bottom of your footer. You just have one script. It just looks more professional and it's also easier to manage from a development standpoint. So we're going to compile all of our SASS down to there, and then we're going to mix our scripts. So what we're going to do is every time that we add a script, we're just going to add this. We're going to add it to this line. I haven't messed with trying to get npm run watch, which that's how you compile. I'm going to go over that in a second. But I haven't got it to be able to just watch all the JS files. There might be a way to do that, and I might go back and make a tutorial on that later. But for now, we're just going to add each file that we make to this list here. So for now, we don't have anything. I'm going to go ahead and show you how to download Bootstrap for our very first test here and add it to this. So you can use, and sometimes I go npm install save, and I'll say Bootstrap, and it will go into your vendors folder here. That's kind of a more advanced topic, and I'm not going to go over that now. We're just going to do it the old-fashioned way. So we're going to go over to, and we're going to get Bootstrap 4. Download. Once this file downloads, just go ahead and open the file that downloads and go in your JS folder and grab bootstrap.min.js. Copy that file, go to wherever your project is stored. So we're going to go to that folder. And we're going to go inside of our resources, assets, JS folder into frameworks and paste this bootstrap.min.js. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our project and we're going to make a link in here to resources, assets, JS, frameworks, bootstrap.min.js. We're also going to need jQuery, so let's go ahead and download that. We're just going to type jQuery into Google, go to the first result, and hit download jQuery. We're just going to download the production jQuery 3.2.1. When we open that up, it's going to open up in Atom, so we'll just hit File, Save As. And we're going to also put that in our folder. So let's go to where your thing is stored, your project is stored. Go into Resources, Assets, JS, Frameworks, and I'm just going to rename it jQuery. Save it there, and let's add that line above Bootstrap because it needs to load in first. So let's just say jQuery.js. I'm going to save that file. This little .source maps is going to create a source map for you so that when you're in Chrome, you can actually inspect an element and it will tell you exactly what file and line that's on. So that way you're not having to hunt through 3 billion lines of JavaScript to find something. So, okay, so now that we have that ready, we hit save. We have everything good to go for our first set of compilation. We're going to go on to the Laravel documentation again. And what does it say to do now? Running Mix. Mix is a configuration layer on top of Webpack. So to run your Mix tasks, you only need to execute one of the npm scripts that is included with the default Laravel package, npm run dev or npm run production. Or you can run the npm run watch command, and it will continue running in the terminal, and it will constantly check and see, if your files are updated and then save them. So this works great for SASS files. It doesn't work as good for JavaScript files, but I'm sure that you can customize it to work with JavaScript files. I don't find it too invasive in my workflow to just rerun npm run watch when I make JavaScript changes. So that's how we're going to do this tutorial. So based on that, let's actually watch our folder. So inside the public CSS folder, if we go ahead and we delete this, and in our JS folder, we delete app.js. Let's see what happens when we run down here. So in the terminal, let's go npm run watch and hit enter. Now you see it compiled successfully, and it says there's a CSS file and there is a JavaScript file. Pretty awesome. So that just compiled all of our stuff down to one file each. With everything in it. So that will allow us to set everything up where we can just reference our app CSS file, or we can reference our app.js file, and everything is compiled. And now we have a nice system where we can go in here to our JavaScript and our SASS folders and start adding in our frameworks, adding in layout files or structural files, so that we can start creating our actual application. So that's going to wrap up this lesson. In the next lesson, we're going to take a look at starting the actual code for the project. We're going to get started with the page to select packages and start coding some actual HTML. So we'll see you in the next one. And as always, let us know in the comments if there's anything you need help with. We'll try to help as much as possible.